You know, with this telescope, you can position it every way you want, whichever way you want to go to, and stuff. And so you're looking at it there. You know, that would be direct, first-hand and proof to anyone, I guess. So that's my stance along those lines, and that's why I would accept a view through an optical telescope. I'm not familiar with I don't recall what Sabrell. I haven't seen you at the radio show that he was on in a while back, but I don't recall what he said along those lines. But like I said, it all comes down to personal opinion, I guess. And as far as whatever's good enough for the grandfather, I'm sure it should be good enough for everyone else within the moon hoax movement.
That's true, but knowing the paranormal community and the conspiracy community as I do, I know that nothing is really good enough in a way. You know, because it's just always elusive. It's like, again, trying to prove that negative is just so difficult.
Well, you tend to get people like that on the propaganda side of things, because one of the big propagandists, Jay Windley, he was quoted publicly. He publicly said that even if Neil Armstrong admitted that it was a hoax, he still wouldn't believe it. And in fact, they even had a little opinion. Yeah, they had an opinion poll as well. You know, basically, you know, asking people, okay, what would convince you that the moon missions are fake? And the vast majority of them said that nothing would convince them. So you've got these propagandists who have already made up their mind that no matter what happens, no matter what you say, nothing is going to sway them. They're going to be propagating this myth all their life. Okay, even if I go up there and die, they'll probably just say, oh, his was an exception. They had a major flare there, whereas the others didn't. Well, the Apollo missions, they also had major flares and stuff, but, you know, they just come with one bullshit excuse after another, and so no matter what you got your different. There's different categories of believers. You've got people who are open to both sides of the thing, and you know, who can be swayed, you know, can be turned and stuff. But then you've got your diehard propagandists who were not. You would not believe that the missions were faked, even if the astronauts made a deathbed confession or publicly stated that. And one of the games that they love playing is alleging that everyone who's a scientist believes that the Apollo missions are real. You never find a credentialed expert who believes that the Apollo missions are faked. Well, the fact is, some of the conspiracy theorists do in fact have credentials. Like one of them was Bill Wood, who has a BSc, and one of them was Dr. David Groves, obviously has a PhD and stuff. And the astronaut Brian O'Leary, even though he says I think they did land, he says I'm not 100% sure. You know, and so then you've got there's this other guy, Dr. Q Zeng. Even though he never really commented on the moon missions, he has expressed doubt of the recent Chinese spacewalk. He said that they were filmed in a swimming pool. You know, so then you got people who do have credentials who actually doubt the moon missions or certain other space missions and stuff. And so but when you present them with this, they either say, their credentials are phony, or if they can't, or if it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that the credentials are legit, you know, they just say, he's wrong, I don't care. You know, it just seems almost like a popularity contest now. You know, it's no longer about evidence. Now it all seems to be about popularity.
Yeah.
So that's what they've basically turned this into now.
Now, another aspect of this whole thing that I wanted to talk to you about is sort of these two tangential conspiracies that are sort of lumped in with the moon hoax theory, and that is the Apollo 1 disaster, I guess you could say, or tragedy, and the Challenger disaster / tragedy. And a lot of people in the moon hoax community think that both of these were orchestrated events. So I know that Bill Kaysing did, and since you're the grandson of the moon hoax theory, I figure you know at least about these ideas, and maybe you can weigh in on where you stand as far as believing in these two sort of peripheral conspiracies.
Yeah, I actually produced a video on this. It's called Moonfaker Apollo 1. It can be viewed on YouTube. It can also be it's also available on this data DVD that's released by moonmovie.com. You know, it's featured on there along with the Apollo 1 investigation report. Mm-hmm. Anyways, the astronaut Gus Grissom, he was known to be very outspoken about the Apollo project. He constantly said that he didn't feel it would work, that someone would die from on their mission. They felt if I recall correctly, he said there was only like a 1 in 3 chance of this actually being successful. And he to let the world know what he thought of the Apollo program, he took a lemon off his tree and hung it on the Apollo command module. And basically, I believe the Americans refer to non-road-weary cars as lemons. So basically, that was what he thought of his spaceship. Basically, the idea of Apollo 1 was supposed to be an Earth orbit flight, and if it was successful, he would be slated to be the first man to walk on the moon. Because he was basically their poster boy for astronauts, and so he was their number one choice. And so, but basically, he was very outspoken with this. He didn't feel it was going to work, and NASA evidently it became clear that he would not go along when it was his time to fake the first moonwalk, and so they needed to silence him, and they also needed to send a message out to all the astronauts who would follow in his footsteps. And so on January 27th, during a plugs out test, he was loaded into this capsule along with his crew, the Apollo 1 capsule. Now, if you understand what we're sitting in right now, what the air you're breathing is nitrogen and oxygen at 14.7 psi, that's pounds per square inch. Now, in space, the Apollo capsule would have an interior pressure of about 5 psi pure oxygen. Okay, and if you wanted to simulate this on the ground, you would need to pump the air pressure up to about 20 psi. All this in pure oxygen, but normally, they do the oxygen tests and the plugs out test separately. Today they decided to do it. They decided to do it at the same time. They put the astronauts in there and pump up the pressure. But if that's not enough, there's so many other issues that NASA, they just seem to go out of their way to make the capsule as unsafe as possible. There was like 5 miles of wiring in their thing, all really bad. In fact, John Young, one of the Apollo astronauts, he has made statements on TV and stuff like that, saying that their wires are really bad. He says, I constantly told Grissom to speak out about them, and he says, if I do, they'll fire me. Yeah, well, evidently they fired him quite literally, and if he was so concerned about the wires, then why didn't he speak out? And then there's also a thing called Velcro, which is what they use to stick things together and stuff.
Yeah.
And normally Velcro isn't a fire hazard, but if you put it in pure oxygen, it burns like a bitch.
Really?
So basically, in pure oxygen, even stainless steel will burn. Okay, including asbestos. NASA had 4 tests, at various Air Force bases, at Brooks Air Force Base and Johnsville Navy Air Station and various other places, right? In which men were burned critically in these pure oxygen chamber tests. In that one of them, their guy was simply changing a light bulb, right? And what happened is that the spark happened and it set his arm on fire, set his clothes on fire. Right? Some guy comes over with an asbestos fire blanket. Normally they use asbestos as fireproofing and stuff. They wraps his arm in it, and the asbestos blanket caught up on fire.
Oh boy!
This was in 1962, right? And NASA subsequently filed reports on this. That say these tests illustrate in concrete fashion the potential dangers of pure oxygen atmospheres, right? And so, yet in NASA, they classified this test as not hazardous, and so they had all this flammable stuff inside there, such as Velcro, and in fact Grissom, he was constantly complaining about that there was too much Velcro, too much flammable shit in the capsule. Right? He complained that he mentioned that to Joe Shea during the acceptance test, which was in October or August or something the year before that. He was saying that there was too much Velcro and stuff like that. And the rule was that nothing that can react to a spark should be within 4 or 10 inches within any ignition source, like wires or whatever, but the whole interior was just plastered with it. They covered the entire capsule interior with Velcro. Joe Shea, he says that he ordered. Joe Shea was the systems manager, and basically he says, I got annoyed, and I said, look, we go clean up the capsule, tells that to North American Aviation, and so, yet they never removed it, right? And interestingly enough, Joe Shea, he was actually giving an interview just before he died, in which he says that Grissom was constantly complaining about this Velcro that's in there, And then he says Grissom put it in there himself. The astronauts, all three astronauts, they just plastered they put Velcro wherever they wanted, as he said. Well, if he was so concerned about Velcro being a fire hazard, why would he put Velcro in the capsule in the first place?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I know. It's like being concerned about petrol setting your car on fire and then dousing it with petrol. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's basically blame the dead guy so you can save yourself. You know, and so and not only that, not only did NASA know about the hazard, not only did they make it so dangerous, North American Aviation, their contractor, see, there's two groups of people, right? You've got NASA who's actually trying to launch this thing, and you've got North American Aviation who are basically building the capsule. You know, so you've got North American Aviation guys and NASA guys on the pad, you know, and since the 1960s, since the Mercury days, they had known that pure oxygen was going to be hazardous. It was going to be hazard. You know, in fact, one of the guys, I believe his name was Frank Hendel, he submitted a document, an article in the Journal of Aviation and Spaceflight, and he said that pure oxygen presents a fire hazard, which is especially great on the launching pad when the cabin is purged with oxygen at sea level pressure, right? And yet the guys from North American Aviation, you know, Harrison Storms, Charlie Feltz and Toby Friedman and stuff, they all claimed that they thought NASA was going to be doing the test at only 5 psi. And they said, oh, had we known, we would have called them up and say, hey, hold everything, that's a hazard. We didn't know. We didn't know that they were going to be doing it. But yet one of their guys back in the 1960s explicitly stated that since the Mercury days, the pure oxygen is going to be hazardous, that it's a fire hazard. You know, he just said it right there, that they knew that they do this stuff at basically at sea level pressure. In Apollo 1's case, 20 psi, which is above sea level pressure. Okay, and now they say we thought they were going to be doing it at only 5 psi, which that's an outright lie to it there. You know, and so it doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah, and about I just remembered Joe Shea. He was the Apollo spacecraft program office manager. That's what his position was and stuff. Okay, and basically he says that he said that Grissom was complaining about the Velcro, and then he says that Grissom put it in there himself. So you got a whole lot of dishonesty from both the contractor and the guys who are trying to put this thing into space, right? Oh, and here's another thing too: the door on the capsule. Right? Yeah. This was a new 3-layer hatch, right, which opened inward and took about 90 seconds to open under good conditions, right? In the Mercury days, you had a little hatch, pull the lever, pops off. On the Gemini program, you had ejector seats. So basically, if you got an oxygen fire in there, no worries, you just pull the hatch and you blow the hatch and all the oxygen runs out, and so that you know, all the sea level nitrogen stuff runs in and stuff, and so there you go, the fire is extinguished, you know, but you know, because it's running on pure oxygen, so you pull the hatch, all the pure oxygen runs out, and there you go, no more fire. But Apollo, they had a 3-layer hatch that opens inward, which under all that pressure would be impossible to get open inward, right? And here's the thing, the hatch could only be opened from the outside. They could only open from the outside, and in an emergency it was completely unusable, and a new hatch had just been designed which could be opened within 20 seconds. Right? I believe Gordon Cooper, one of Grissom's buddies from the Mercury days, he said that probably would have saved Grissom. And here's the thing: the Apollo 1 plugs out test was to be the last time the old hatch was ever to be used before they refitted it. But here's the thing: it was also the first time they were going to use this hatch.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. So if they were going to replace the hatch with an easier one, why wouldn't they just postpone the test until they got the new one put on? You know, so they went out of their way to make the capsule as unsafe as possible. You know, and then what else was there? Okay, here's another thing too. Okay, there's conflict as to when the fire actually initially began. You see, officially, only 15 seconds went by from the first mention of fire to the moment that the capsule ruptured. See, as the capsule as the oxygen burns and stuff, all this smoke and pollutants and stuff fills the air and increases the pressure to the point that the capsule bursts.
Yeah.
You know. And so, basically, it says that only 15 seconds went by, but other witnesses reported that the first mention of fire was minutes away. Like Thomas Ronald Barron, one of the safety inspectors who was actually complaining as well,